Good afternoon, good evening, good night, good morning, wherever you are. It's Abs of October Red, and we are back once again for news and reviews. Haven't done one of these in a minute. Lots been going on. Life is lifing, as it does. Did a live the other day where we spoke about the IBF, Jai Pattaya, etc. And obviously he's had his fight. He won a great battle between him and Brandon Glanton. Fair play. Went points, went to the distance. I thought he was going to get the stoppage, but Brandon Glanton is what he says on the tin. Bulletproof, tough guy. He got the win. So we're sort of like in that area of boxing at the moment, and it is a talking point because it's interesting. And I've sat back and I've watched. I was jumped on the Conor Benn thing because that was just like, wow. But the rest of the stuff that's been going on, I thought, let me have a sit down. Let me try and watch. Let me try and understand, etc., etc., because it's not straightforward. So I wanted to go through what I think is going on. A lot of the stuff that I'm speaking about, and I will put this caveat in there, is these are allegations. This is not necessarily based off fact, what I have seen. It's based on news reports, what other people have been reporting. And I'm kind of summarising it. And the reason why I like to summarise things, or I like to go through things, is because if I don't understand something and I'm trying to learn about something, there's going to be other people out there, other boxing fans out there that potentially will know the same as I do, which sometimes, let's face it, isn't much. So this is kind of like a learning exercise, and just to see where we are with boxing at the moment. Obviously, I've entitled the video "The $1 Billion War," and it's, the headline is Frank Warren versus Zuffa, Sela and TKO, because that was one of the things I was thinking, okay, where are we now going with this? And one of the things that got to my attention straight away was when I saw Fury Makhmadov announced, and it was Netflix and it was the Ring. I couldn't see Queensberry anywhere, and then I thought, that's odd, but it's eye candy, maybe it's just the initial print, etc., etc. And then we've had this kind of fallout. I was speaking to some guys on Twitter this morning, and I love the Twitter engagement. We kind of started off with Ben Whittaker, what's happening with him. Thought he was supposed to be out in March, and you guys quite correctly have corrected me and said, look, he's supposed to be on the Boots card. That was pushed back because of Virgil, supposed to be out in May. And fair enough, but let's face it, waiting for Virgil wasn't the right thing to do when you knew that he was potentially going to be in a legal entanglement, because he could get benched for ages. So Boots has just got to crack on with his career. And obviously, because Ben Whittaker was supposed to be on that card, he's had to take a back seat as well. And that's kind of led here. I did watch a interview with the Stomping Ground, which is Charlie Parsons and Eddie Hearn. And he mentioned a couple of things, because I tend to go to like the transcript so I can read through it just to see if there's any key points in there. And he mentioned this word, and it was like investicule or investable, and my ears are not what they were. And I was Googling it, and I was thinking, what is it? And the experts can come down in the comments and say, you flipping idiot, it means this, why don't you know about that? You claim to be in whatever, come at me, please. But from what I've got from it, without asking the obvious question, without DMing Eddie or anybody else, it seems to be an amalgamation, meaning like investment vehicle. Yeah. So I think some things are like unfolding behind the boxing scenes, which is obviously nothing to do with the fights in the ring. It involves contracts, billions of dollars, and the future structure of the sport. The reason why I take interest in this is because I do like the legalities of the sport. I do like to try and understand contracts and the rest of it, because there's so much more to boxing, because it is a business. And at the end of the day, it's not just about the fighters getting in the ring. There's a lot of preparation. There's all sorts of stuff that happens before that even happens. We've seen the debacle of the IBF, you know, taking their belt, stripping Jaya Pataya from the belt. Not that they haven't done it before, because they have. But with this one, there seems to be a conflict, and I posted it in my community spot of YouTube, where basically they were led, and this is not from anybody from Zuffa, it was Opataya's team, so I'm presuming his management team, said, no, you know, it's not the Zuffa's not the official belt that they're fighting for, so we can still fight for the IBF, etc., etc. And then I think they must have turned up to the weigh-in, took their sanctioning fees, heard that the Zuffa is a world title championship belt, and the IBF went, nah, you ain't doing that. So I think they took the money and dipped. So we've had a debate about that. But what we're seeing is that there's conflict. There's a massive conflict of interests between traditional boxing and the new boxing that is coming through. And I'm going to get as much detail as I can in. And like I said, you guys, you know I love the feedback in the comments. Please put your thoughts in the comments. I like the engagement, and it would be good to know what your thoughts are on this video once it's finished. So you're looking at it, Frank Warren, powerful promoter, and he's preparing to sue 1 billion, or he's getting ready to put a $1 billion lawsuit against Sela and TKO Group Holdings, which, as you know, are behind Zuffa Boxing. If it does proceed, because I know I think they've sent letters of intention. So like I said, this is all allegations. It's going to really expose a massive power struggle in the sport. So just to summarise, we'll go over the background, just so you can all catch up. So if it's the first time of you listening to this, you kind of get a little bit of a picture. I'm going to paint a picture of what we've got so far. So as you know, 2 years, Saudi Arabia has basically become the financial force behind boxing. Yeah, the financial drive, the investors, the key investors in boxing. And I will highlight the good that they've done. They've created some great fights, some great matchups. They've forced the promoters to work together, which was something that most of us never believed would happen. They've created great things within the sport. Can't deny that, because I've had some fantastic nights doing the live watch alongs with you guys, as you've seen. So we've had, like I said, the major fights, the crossover, undisputed. I mean, Fury and Usyk Fury, a fight that we also thought would never happen, when there were like deadlines for contracts and this, that and the other, and it was all seemed to be going wrong. Those fights got made, and this was only because of the money of the Saudi investment, largely organised through the company Sela, working with powerful figures such as His Excellency Turki Al Sheikh. So during that period, Queensberry, which is obviously Frank Warren, has always been one of the primary operational partners helping stage those events. A lot of the time, Queensberry Promotions would be there on the promotional the flyers, the thumbnails, whatever it was. You'd see Queensberry, even if it wasn't a Queensberry fight and it was a Riyadh season fight co-promoted with another promoter, Queensberry would still be on the badge. It would be, and we've seen it. So that collaboration helped produce major shows. Like I said, we had the crossover fight between Tyson Fury and Francis Ngannou. Later on, we obviously had Anthony Joshua versus Francis Ngannou, when Matchroom were invited into the room. But according to reports, and I think if you're in a legal battle with somebody, you can safely say that that relationship has come to somewhat of an end, an organic end, because now there seems to be some issues. So the claim, and this is from, I think there's various sorts, I'll probably put them in the comments so you can go and have a read of them yourself. Frank Warren's company, Queensberry Promotions, has reportedly sent letters before action to both Sela and TKO. It's an explosive claim. Queensberry has stated that they had exclusive agreements with Sela dating back to 2023, that's when they first came into it, providing operational expertise and industry access while Saudi Arabia was building its boxing presence. There's three parts of that: providing operational expertise, industry access, Saudi building its boxing expertise. Now that sounds like a dangerous combination, but here we are. At the same time, Frank Warren claims his company also had a separate agreement with TKO, giving the company access to certain internal data and contractual information. Now, let's just pause that for a minute. Remember, and I'm using this as an example because it's the way my brain makes sense of things. Even though it's gone quiet now, so I'm just going to presume that something got settled out of court. Remember, Ben Shalom of Boxer took John Wishausen from Sky Sports to court because he said he tried to backdoor fighters, and the agreement was if they parted ways, that Sky wouldn't be able to try and get any of their fighters for a certain period of time. Yeah, so that obviously, I don't know what's happened with that. It's gone very closed door. So I'm going to make the assumption that they've obviously settled, potentially out of court. If you know something that I don't, please put it in the comments. But when you talk about access to contractual information, that is something that has to be done on a proviso of, I will grant you access. However, you can't then decide to use the access I've given you against me unless there's a certain period of time lapse. Now, like I said, this is all allegedly, but this is the familiarity I've got from that sentence. So the allegation is that Sela and TKO then use that information to form a new venture, which is Zuffa Boxing, without the involvement of Queensberry. So they've cut them out. So essentially the claim is, the allegation is that Queensberry's let them in, they've got private information, they've used it and cut Queensberry out the deal. That's basically what it is. And like I said, this is all allegations. If the contracts had been honoured, Frank Warren argues his company would have earned as much as $1 billion in future revenue. Obviously, with the fights they're putting on, he would have known what the intentions potentially were, what gate money could have been, where the fights are going to be. So he's saying, you know, I've had a loss because of this. Why have you done that? Hence the notice before action. So that's the figure that he's reportedly seeking in damages. So then we move on to what we've got today, which, fair play to them, Zuffa have been extremely active. They've put on fights every other week, if not every week. I think they've had 4. I think we've had Zuffa 4 so far, from their announcement of when they were going to do the first fight. They've been continuous with it. And to be fair, from the highlights that I've seen, because I haven't stayed up, because you know me and staying up, it looks like there've been some really good competitive fights. With the fighters, I don't know all of them, but you know me, sometimes I tend to switch off when the fighters go outside of the UK. Shoot me down in the comments. I've not got a problem with that. So Zuffa Boxing, new venture, and it's backed by UFC leadership. So you've got Dana White, WWE executives, I believe it's Mr. Khan, and obviously you've got the Saudi investment. So we can see that it's got the US style model, potentially including its own championship belts, and is more centralized on the promotional structure. They have got the belt because Joe Apataya is their first Zuffa cruiserweight champion. The project already appears to have that financial backing that it needs. Obviously, we did the video, and this is still allegations. I don't even know if this is true, whether the sources are credible, that the deal that Conor Ben signed was 15 million based on a 1-fight deal. So 15 million under Zuffa Boxing, and I think some of the UFC fighters would have a face like a bulldog chewing a wasp, thinking, hold on a minute, how come they're getting that money and it's our forefather that's backing that company and we can't get that investment? So I think, there's going to be a little bit of feathers rustled just with that. Never mind Frank Warren issuing this notice before potential proceedings. So reports suggest that a 5-year broadcast deal worth around $500 million dollars with Paramount Plus, alongside obviously the fighters that we're recruiting. I already said to you yesterday in the live, don't pay too much attention to the belt being new, to what the belt looks like, etc., etc. Because Zuffa Boxing are going to, I'll go back to this. I'll go back to what I said earlier. Giving the company access to certain internal data and contractual information. So when I said to you guys yesterday, they are going to go after the best fighters, because then it becomes the name that's attached to the belt that makes the belt worth something. They are going to aggressively target fighters, and I'd say the elite fighters. So we'll see what happens with Usyk, if he's just going to have this fight in the desert and then ride off into the sunset and vacate all his belts. But they're going to go for the creme de la creme, because they want the elite names attached to the belts. Therefore, other fighters will think, well, I want to fight him. I'm going to go over there. And that's how I see this going. And with the backing, like $500 million investments, that's a lot of money. They can spin that $500 million looking at the production, looking at venues, etc. What are the ticket prices going to be when they move out of the apex, when they do start to grow as a business? What are the ticket costs going to be? What other champions are they going to have? So this is a long-term investment. This isn't like 2 minutes. This is like a long-term financial investment. So obviously they've signed Conor Benn, albeit he's not a champion, he's still a name. And obviously the cruiserweight champion, Jai Opetaia. And I think some reports, and I think this comes from Boxing Scene, approximately about 100 fighters have already been recruited. There's going to be more, and they're going to be top fighters as well. We already know from Robert Garcia, like I said, I mentioned this on my live, a couple of this is a bit repetitive, that they've tried to go for Bam, and there was a little bit of a back and forth, and it seems like Matchroom may have won that battle, but we'll see. So the lawsuit isn't just about money. That's why this, matters for boxing. And when we're talking about boxing, we're talking about the business side. I will say to you guys, if you're not interested in the business side, then this kind of content isn't for you. If you want to, you want to hear about fights and who's fighting who and etc., I'd stop it here and just exit the room, because this is about the business side. So boxing has been run, and Dana White's kind of said, the system's fragmented. We've got multiple promoters, multiple sanctioning bodies, competing broadcasting deals. But Zuffa's model is it's black and white, isn't it? Just like the uniform, it's very black and white. So they've got a different type of structure, and obviously that structure is modelled on the UFC, with the caveat of the boxers are paid a lot more money. So it's one promotion controlling the biggest fighters, titles and events. And obviously with the UBOs, with the acts that they're trying to pass in Congress, which is still bipartisan, but two parties have dropped out of support, is the fact that your manager and your promoter can be the same person. So that then pulls it down, and you kind of like cornered. There's less freedom, because even though you could argue that some managers favour the promoters more than the fighters, but this time you'll just have that one stream. But obviously that's not been passed yet, so they can't do that. And then you could argue, okay, is that why Eddie's trying to get in to do the management side or the talent side, the Matchroom talent side, to try and pull as many fighters as he can in before this happens? Look at the bigger picture and why people are doing things. So you think if that model does succeed, it could completely reshape the boxing structure, and it could literally shut out the sanctioning bodies and the promoters potentially, and the managers. So you're looking at potentially just having one system, one size fits all, the monopoly, the control of it. So going back to what I said in the beginning, Tyson Fury obviously fits into this, and I think this bit is interesting because I know, we all know Tyson Fury is promoted by Frank Warren and Queensberry Promotions. His manager is Spencer Brown. Hi, Spencer Oliver. I'm obviously thinking about you. Spencer Brown is his manager. But reports and discussions in recent interviews suggest, and this is an allegation, that Zuffa or TKO may now be connected to this fight with Tyson Fury. And if that's true, he's right at the middle of potentially a power struggle. So one side you have the traditional boxing promotional structure, and on the other side you have the UFC style corporate sports machine backed by the Saudi funding. So the response from Sela and TKO, we've all seen the tweets. For their part, Sela has strongly rejected the allegations. A spokesperson has described the claims as unfounded and said the company is confident that the facts will support its position. At the time of the reporting, TKO and Zuffa have largely declined to comment publicly, which means the next phase potentially could play out in court. If you're keeping your cards close to your chest, comments are null or, very minimal, it means that, we're going to let our legal team sort this out. We don't want to say anything that's potentially going to incriminate us or be used against us. So I'll tell you what, they've put their claim in, a notice before potential proceedings. We won't say anything on it, and we'll just let our legal team deal with it. And that is the professional way to deal with anything that's going through any court system or any allegations that have been made. Because as you know, once it's out there in the public, people clip this and they put it out and they'll use it, and to whatever extent they will do to twist it to use things against you. It's the oldest trick in the book. So them staying silent, to me, is the best thing that they can do, and just let the legals sort themselves out. So when you look at the bigger picture, then you think about boxing is, the experience of boxing is probably one of the most dramatic power shifts in history. And it is at the moment. We are in, the cusp of a change. We've seen stuff happen. A couple of us had their opinions, like me. I thought, how can you literally be in bed with every single promoter and think that one day that's not going to go against you? I've said that from the beginning. I'm just like that in life. Maybe that's why I'd never make a successful promoter, because once I see you cozying up with somebody, or if you're a friend of everyone, you're an enemy to yourself. So I always thought that you got to be careful with this, because potentially it could backfire. So I'd say that the investment from the Saudis is definitely reshaping the sport. Zuffa is building their promotional superstructure, and they're doing quite well at the moment. I want to see who else they're going to sign. And long-standing promoters like, Frank Warren are now fighting to protect their place in the industry. And I think, it's just my opinion, not that that really matters. You know what? If you agree with me, let me know. I think that potentially Matchroom could follow suit. It's $1 billion lawsuit, and it could reveal how the new boxing economy is actually being built behind the scenes. It's interesting. We'll have to see. Eddie, and I'm going to see if I can get this up. She says, let me see if I can find my YouTube, because that's what I want. I want to try and play you guys a clip from the Eddie Hearn interview that sort of prompted me to do this video. So shout out to the Stomping Ground. Let's have a look. How do I get into my history now? Let me just put in Eddie Hearn. That'll bring up a few interviews, won't it? Right.
This is Charlie Parsons for the...
Let's get rid of that bit. Let me just go to Sorry, Charlie. Let me just go to the transcript. And I think it's towards the end. Ah, here we go. It's on the side when it comes to... Right, I think it is actually towards the end. And this is what prompted this video. So... fighting in the boxing game. Right, hold on. Let's try and play it from this bit. Have a listen, guys.
But on all the others, I'd say I'd win easy. But against him, it's going to be...
Not that bit, but we're getting there. We're getting there.
But I could use the reach, just ping him with the right hand, and I could knock him spark out.
Very quickly, is Ben Shalom the UK lead promoter for Fury Makhmudov?
No.
It's a very boxer-heavy card.
Well, they've got one fight and Fraser Clark. Is that right?
Just look like some of the talent on the
it's not. We've got nothing to do with the show, but we've got Justice Hunion. We've got Troy Williamson on the card, although there's
technically Ben's fight. No.
Who?
Ben Shalom's fight. They had the option on.
He's under contract to Matchroom.
Yeah,
but there's a problem on that anyway because Ben's. Anyway, yeah, no. Well, Mark Shapiro on the TKO investor call confirmed that TKO and Zuffa are promoters of Fury Makhmudov.
In the UK?
Yeah.
Sanctioned.
So, I mean, I don't think that's the case. But you can't lie on an investor call, so they must be.
You can't lie on an investor call, so they must be. We shall see what happens with it. Let me know what you think, guys. Let's see what comes out of all of this. Are Sela, TKO, are they promoting Makhmudov Fury? Is that what is in writing? Is that what has prompted the potential or the impending, should it happen, the alleged lawsuit from Frank Warren? We'll have to wait and see. Something that I will be following carefully. So, like I said, let me know what you think in the comments. And as we say, at October Red, stay ready.